Okay, so I want to start doing videos on a new book. There's so many series going right now. I'll be starting videos on a book by Jacques Derrida, The Politics of Friendship. So, this is an interesting book. I've read parts of it. However, I just want to do videos on it, and I'm not going to go chapter by chapter, but I'm just going to try and just do as many videos as I can out of it and talk about as many things as I can out of it. So, this is going to be the first video on this book. However, mostly what I'm going to be discussing is, well, all of what I'm going to be discussing is out of the first chapter called Oligarchies, Naming, Enumerating, and Counting. So, keep in mind that when you're reading any of Derrida's books, that the concepts of différance, difference, and deferral, and trace, metaphysics of presence, logocentrism, and all those different things do apply here. This is not a discourse that is going to be understandable or, I guess, concrete or lucid at all. It's going to be unwieldy and kind of contradictory, but I like that. I like Derrida definitely a lot. And I might stop this video if I have some chicken in the oven, so if that goes off, I'm going to stop the video. So I guess the first thing that he states here is, "Oh, my friends, there is no friend." And he says, if there is no friend, then how can I call you my friends, my friends? But by what right? How could you take me seriously? If I call you my friends, if I call you my friends, how dare I add to you that there is no friend? And a lot of what he's trying to do is to politicize the idea of friendship. He refers to the Eudemian Ethics which is another book of ethics by Aristotle. So he refers to Aristotelian ideas of friendship, also friendship ideas from the Stoic Cicero, and also refers to Montaigne. So he refers to a lot of different thinkers, and mostly Aristotle, and he does use hyphenated words that come from Heidegger, really. So he doesn't mention Heidegger in this chapter, but there are Heideggerian influences here. So how can one say, "Oh, my friends, there is no friend"? A lot of what's going on here is that he's trying to politicize the idea of friendship, in that, in a way, we are all connected. In a way, it kind of almost like the idea of otherness coming before selfhood from people like Heidegger and Paul Ricoeur and Jean-Paul Sartre, but in a way that doesn't infer any kind of concrete, absolute reality, and how still everything in the world differs and defers back and forth, and it kind of marginalizes. There's no thing that stabilizes. So thus, otherwise we would have a logocentrism or metaphysics of presence. So how, and we are dealing with Derrida here. So how can we say that, "Oh, my friends, there is no friend"? So we're going to get into that a little bit here. Incompatible as they may appear, and condemned to the oblivion of contradiction, here is in a sort of desperately dialectical desire, the two times already form two theses, two moments perhaps. They concatenate, they appear together, they are summoned to appear in the present, they present themselves in a single stroke, in a single breath, in the same present, in the present itself. So saying, "Oh, my friends, there is no friend," it's kind of a single thing. It's not there's friends and then there's no friends. It's a single unitary thing. But how many of us are there? And first of all, you already sense it in pronouncing, "Oh, my friends, there is no friend." I have yet to say anything in my name. I have been satisfied with quoting. The spokesman of another have reported his words, which belong in the first place to a slightly archaic language, itself unsettled by the memory of borrowed or translated speech. What about one's being at home, or being close to oneself, in regard to that which links friendship to all laws and logics of universalization, to ethics and to law, or right to the values of equality and equity, to all the political models of the res publica, the publical thing. Res means thing, for which this distinction remains the axiom, and especially in regard to democracy. So it's almost how friendship links everybody together, that it's almost a singular thing, and yet there's many of us. So it's almost like a one and many thing at the same time. And I'll get to why this is a politicization of friendship in a bit here. What is absolute hope if it stems from friendship? However underdeveloped it may be, the Ciceronian answer leans sharply to one side. Let us say the same side, rather than to the other. Let us say the other. In 2, 3, or 4 words, is the friend the same or the other? Cicero prefers the same and believes he's able to do so. He thinks that to prefer is also just that. If friendship projects its hope beyond life, an absolute hope, an incommensurable hope, this is because the friend is, as the translation has it, our own ideal image. For the man who keeps his eye on a true friend keeps it, so to speak, on a model of himself. For this reason, friends are together when they are separated. They are rich when they are poor, strong when they are weak, and a thing even harder to explain, they live on after they have died. So great is the honor that follows them, so vivid the memory, so poignant the sorrow. That is why friends who have died are counted happy, and those who survive them are deemed worthy of praise. So, politics refers to justice, for one, and people living in harmony has to do with justice. And politics, according to Derrida, is a friendship, a living in harmony together with each other. And to say, "Oh, my friends, there is no friend," can be said, according to Derrida's deconstructionistic idea of friendship and of politics, because of the self and other, the one and many sort of dichotomy, or lack of symmetry, really. The opinion is that the whole task should certainly consist in determining this justice. That seems possible only by forcing several aporias. We begin with the implicit reference to Lysis, the Platonic dialogue, with the aporia of a friendship which seems doomed to the similar and to the dissimilar. But even before this first aporia, the just will be said and the passage will be forced only by first aligning oneself to a commonly held opinion. This opinion concerns the very work of the political. The properly political act or operation amounts to creating the most friendship possible. So politics for Derrida is that of friendship. So politics of friendship, this book, is about the same thing. Politics and friendship have to do with the same thing. It has to do with living in harmony, has to do with justice and living in harmony, which is basically a lot of the same thing. It's people like Heidegger and Ricoeur and Hans-Georg Gadamer are one to suggest that other is prior to self. However, Derrida isn't saying that. Derrida isn't saying that other is prior to self, nor is he saying that self is that self is prior to other. He's saying that to say that, oh my friend, there is no friend, is contradictory, and yet it isn't, because the idea of the friend links everybody together, and friendship has to do with selfhood. So it's friendship has to do with the one, and the self, and it also has to do with the other and the many. So it's a complex deconstructionistic look at politics and friendship itself. In all good sense, what you hear above all is loving. You must hear loving. You cannot fail to hear it in total confidence when the word friendship resounds. Friendship consists in loving, does it not? It is a way of loving, of course. Friendship, the being friend, what is that anyway? Well, it is to love before being loved. Before even thinking about what loving, lovins mean, one must know that the only way to find out is by questioning first of all the act and the experience of loving, rather than the state or situation of being loved. So, even though Derrida is saying that to say, oh my friend, there is no friend, and that other and self are kind of like an entangled sort of thing here, and that you can't really presuppose one before the other, in that how the friend, the idea of friendship, and the friend links everybody up together. That's essentially that. That doesn't mean that the state of being loved isn't equal. I mean, loving and being loved are still not equal, given his friendship versus self sort of this complex thing. Loving is still prior to being loved, in the state of being loved. The friend is the person who loves before being the person who is loved. Axiom: the friendship I bear for someone, and no doubt love as well, cannot remain a secret for myself. Being loved, what does that mean? Nothing, perhaps. Nothing in any case of friendship. I'll be back. Okay, I'm back. Axiom: the friendship I bear for someone, and no doubt love as well, cannot remain a secret for myself. Being loved, what does that mean? Nothing, perhaps nothing in any case of friendship itself, in which the loved therefore remains with regard to friendship itself, and therefore with regard to the friend. An accident. Friendship, what is proper or essential to friendship, can be thought and lived without the least reference to the be loved, and or more generally the lovable. They prefer to be loved, and thus seek honors, distinction, and signs of recognition. If a friend had to choose between knowing and being known, he would choose knowing rather than being known. That's what an actual real friend would do. Even if the movement of the act and the passivity of the state were simultaneously possible, if that could take place, in fact, the essential structure of the two experiences and the two relations would remain no less different. This irreducible difference is that which counts and permits counting. It is that which justifies the intrinsic hierarchy. Knowing will never mean for a finite being known, nor loving will mean being loved. One can love being loved, but loving will always be more, better, and something other than being loved. One can love to be loved, or to be lovable, but one must first know how to love, and knowing what loving means by loving. The structure of the first must remain what it is, heterogeneous to that of the other. And that structure, that of loving for the lover, will always, as Aristotle tells us, in sum, be preferable to the other, to that of being loved as lovable. Loving will always be preferable to being loved, as acting is preferable to suffering, act to potentiality, essence to accident, knowledge to non-knowledge. It is reference, the preference itself. Only primary friendship is stable, for it implies decision and reflection, that which always takes time. Only those decisions do not spring up quickly or easily, result in correct judgment. Furthermore, where every other is equally altogether other. There's no democracy without respect for the irreducible singularity or alterity. But there is no democracy without the community of friends. Without the calculation of majorities, without identifiable, stabilizable, representable subjects, all equal. So there is an irreducible singularity, which is friendship itself, and all the friends together. It is a singularity and it is a unity, and yet it is a lot of many different people engaging in a certain action towards others, and how loving is prior to the action of being loved, or to the state of being loved. Unless one would find the other in oneself already, the same dissymmetry and tension of surviving in self, and the one self thus out of joint with its own existence. To be able to or have to be the friend of oneself, this would change nothing in the testamentary structure we are discussing. It would break all ipseity apart in advance. It would ruin the advance that which makes it possible, narcissism and self-exemplarity. So, I guess the way I want to introduce this book is by the first thing he says is, "Oh, my friends, there is no friend." And how contradictory that is, and yet how understandable it is, and how interesting it is that it's possible for that actually to be the case, and also without having to presuppose any real concrete reality. Thus, we wouldn't fall into any metaphysics of presence by politicizing justice or politicizing friendship, and I just think it's really interesting. So there are a lot of other chapters in here which I plan to do videos on. So far we have a chapter called Loving and Friendship. He Who Accompanies Me talks about language, and there's a lot of different things going on here. It does talk about democracy, and there's a lot of different political thought in here. So if you think I messed something up in this little intro to this book, let me know in the comments below. And if you have any questions, also, I'd love to discuss it.